Okay. I will start sharing my screen now. Okay, good. Everything what I show you here is on the so-called FAT environment, which is the test environment, which the IT developers and we as users can use for training and testing purposes. It is actually the very same what you see on the production, but as said, we can play around here and do everything and do not disturb anything what is happening on the production environment. To start with, every user, of course, once registered on WebClaims, will see this start screen, more or less this start screen. I will show you about the differences, what you see or do not see. First, to start with, that DB Schenker logo is an active logo, and you can always, with the right click on your mouse, open several other screens if you like to, and can work in parallel on different claims, or want to keep the overview and work on another claim. That's perfectly fine. Moving here to the right side, I go into this in a second. Under your name, you will find first the preferences, then you can edit your log file, SIMS log file, and of course the logout. Going into the preferences, here every user can set his default office, meaning the office the user wants to see when opening a new claim or preliminary. This here you can use to show a different currency which is not used by your legal entity. Or if you are working on for a specific customer who uses a different currency than your local currency, then you can use this. Policy is not really of relevance for all of you. Different office location is only to be activated for users who are working in the so-called GBS. Now this would open a different box, different field here. Then you can say, okay, my default office I'm working for is, let's say, Mannheim, but I'm located in Manila, Bucharest, or wherever. On the date format, we have covered different date formats that are used around the globe. And you can do this to make it more convenient for you if you want to see the date in a different format. On this one here, you can customize the order in which your tasks are shown. I will go into these tasks a little bit later. This is also part of the overview screen, but here you can customize the way in which way you want to see the tasks which are assigned to you. Claim search is another area which you can reach via that part here. I come to that in a second, where you can add or delete certain elements which should be shown on the search result. Further down here, you can set your signature for emails you send out of WebClaims directly. The printer section down here is used for countries which have a centralized printing, and there you can set the URL of your printer. So I would say this is not that often used in many countries, and yeah, but just to have it complete. What you already see here is whenever I do a change or change something, then the background remains green, and this is in green as long as I do not press the save button. So pressing the save button would then show you first this preferences have been changed in that case. And if you would go into that again, then you could see the changes I have just made, with taking away this one here, are captured. Going here to the far right, there you can set a language. Principally speaking, WebClaims is able to cover all languages around the globe, but this is not part of this introduction section on how to do this translation. But if you simply want to change it, for example, to French, then the entire screen or everything what has been translated by the country is shown in the respective language. The entire application is developed in English, so everything what you have there is always in English. And if you have not translated anything, then the English wording will always be kept. Going into the next line here, that blue bar. First of all, of course, like for the above button here, you can click on that WebClaims button and open a new one. So it will do the very same. You might ask, well, why is that needed here? And also, why is it needed to have here an overview button? Well, the entire upper part will always remain available, irrespective on where you are on the application. And from there, of course, it makes sense also to have the overview button. Next one in here is search contacts. Search contacts is used for finding users which are registered on WebClaims. So, for example, if you say, for example, you want to say country France and you want to see which users are available in France, then you press the button, and in this case, of course, we are in a test environment. You can see the users who are registered in France. And then, of course, the only possibility you have here is then to go click on the email, and then it would open your Outlook, and you can send a mail to that person. That is the only thing you can do in here. One thing already to mention in here, which is valid for all searches you have in here, like these search claims, search postings, and these other searches you have in here. The search result is always limited to 500. So if you reach the 500, then the warning pops up and tells you that there are more results available, and you should limit your search result or change your search criteria. Good. Going into the tasks, it's said built up in the very same way. Here you can, of course, have different search criteria where you can say, okay, was it to a specific office? Was it from a specific legal entity or to a specific legal entity? And there you can find then tasks which have been generated or to a specific user. And then, of course, you have all the different types of tasks you can look for or search for. I think the names of these are self-explanatory, and yeah, it's nothing complicated on that. Search email works in the very same way, of course. Then, of course, you can look for emails that have been sent to a user or received from a user or whatever criteria you have. While talking about mails, I would also talk about this part here, which I did not forget, but I want to mention it now in this content here. This symbol for the envelope with the envelope, and this symbol also shows if there are mails which have been sent to you as recipient but have not been read so far. That one here I come to in a second. Batch upload is a specific functionality in WebClaims which can be used for mass upload of claims. In that case, for example, you have a customer sending in claims on a monthly basis as an Excel, for example. Then there's a template file you can download, and then you have to convert all the information into a CSV file. And by that, you can upload the entire file into WebClaims, and it generates individual preliminary out of that. Premium report is nothing for the majority of you. This is some specific thing which is used for Germany only. Information guides you to the page in Schenker 1 where you can find all the documentation and information we have on WebClaims. So here you will find the manual, the user manual, the FTU manual, and other information which is relevant for the usage of WebClaims. Reporting is the link to our SBI. SBI stands for Schenker Business Intelligence, and that is where all reports can be generated and used. On a general level, all changes or entries you have done during the day are sent over into a global data warehouse during the night, the following night. That means everything what you register today would be available for reporting tomorrow morning. This is SBI is a separate tool, which is a standard, one of the standard tools of Schenker, and a specific access needs to be asked for or requested for in order to get access to the reporting. Good. Now, not to forget it, this symbol here shows all claims that have been generated via e-claims coming in from your customers directly. And this, of course, shows how many unhindered e-claims there are. Good. Going further in that line here, search claim, which, like the name says, it is the search function where you can look for specific claims, let's say for claims you have created after, let's say, on that day or after that day. So you can always search here. You can limit your search results here. And the easiest way, of course, is to use the little calendar symbol, but you could also make it different. And this is also valid for all other date fields. So instead of using the calendar, you can, of course, directly type it in, but you could also make it easy for you if you say, for example, -1. Yeah, that would already, the system knows that you mean the day before. If you would add a W, yeah, that would be a week or a month. Yeah, that would then automatically, the system will automatically know that you look for something which was 1 month before. Yeah. If we then start, you see, system automatically enters the date or changes it to the date and shows you your search result. What is interesting also with the search result is, so let's say, for example, I look into this one here. I will just open, you can also from here open it in a separate link. I will do this in this case here. And then it shows you that particular claim, of course, like you used to do it. If you do not use a separate link, but click on it directly, then you will see a little difference, and that is this one here. Yeah, so that means then you can click through your search result. Yeah. Up and down, or if you want to go back, then of course you can go back to the search. Yeah. Good. Then the very same functionality is actually here on the posting. It's nothing, it's just a different kind of search criteria you would find in here, which are related to all kind of postings. Yeah, the date, whatever you have, the user who has created some posting and whatsoever. You know. But I would say nothing really what needs to be shown. There's always a default setting, but like here, of course, you can also add additional columns in here if you want to, or take away. You can have, depending on what you have chosen here, of course, have then different search criteria to pick from. You know? So, for example, if I would take posting user, for example, then it does not make sense to have, let's say, a long list, but then, of course, you need to enter at least 2 characters. I would say, okay, just take me. And then the more I put in there, then you would, of course, the more names, the closer the result would be. Good. And then coming to search transport, which is, I would say, the point where you have the most touch points with. And in many cases, this would also be the starting point for you to create a preliminary or a claim. Why is that? If you use this transport search, for example, and I would just enter an STT number in it, then click search, then you will see that the system starts searching for this particular transport. In this case, or in my settings, it searches under CTTS, which is for land transport. CIS is air and ocean, or of course it searches also within WebClaims in case this transport STT number has already been used. In other countries, like Sweden, for example, you would find an additional one, which is Compass, and then WebClaims is connected directly against Compass and would do the search in Compass as well. Then you would see here you have a search result, which gives you some basic information about it. You can click on the action point, and this is the details. It shows you the details of this specific transport, or to be more precise, the information CTTS provides to us, like the transport details or other information CTTS has received from the respective transport management system. Out of here, you could say, okay, this is the right transport, and I could directly go into creating a preliminary or fast entry. But the very same could be done in here. So out of here, you could create directly a preliminary, and we will do this a little bit later, or a fast entry. Now, while I already talked about fast entry, this is a function, this is available for everyone where it has been activated in the legal entity. So if you do not see this button, then it's of course clear that your legal entity has not activated the fast entry functionality. Especially for newcomers, I would recommend that you start using the preliminary button and not the claim button. Why? Under the preliminary, you will have a limited number of mandatory fields, and it does not have any financial impact after you have saved the preliminary. If you do this under claim, it can have a financial impact due to provisions that might be sent over. Going a little bit here to the right, you have this symbol here, this loudspeaker symbol. This actually, if you click on that, you will be guided directly to a page where you can report some difficulties you face, and this issue is then directly recorded into ServiceNow. So it's a direct link into ServiceNow on the WebClaims page, from the WebClaims page. Quick search, as the name says, is search where you can enter, let's take, for example, this one here, where you can enter a claim reference number, then press search, and then it gives you the result. It also works with postings, so the posting is also shown in the same way, but then it's a little bit has an attachment, so to say, with a minus and then 01 to whatever. Then it would guide you directly into a posting. That symbol here is available for users who have super users or FDU rights, and goes very much into the settings of the application on legal entity level. I will not go into this today. This is not part of the introduction session. While talking about or looking at that numbers here, before going into that screen here. All claim reference numbers, which you see here, or what you also see here, follow a certain logic. And this logic is the first 2 digits are the year of the loss. Then you see 5 letters, which is 2 letters from the country ISO code, and then 3 letters for the office, and then a running 5-digit number, or it's visible, a 5-digit number. In fact, there are 6 digits. There are countries who have more than 100,000 claims, and then, of course, the 6 digit will be shown in that case. Important in that regard is this number is unique, and it will never change. Whatever you do on, let's say, on a registered preliminary or claim, that number will remain. So, for example, if you have registered it under 21 something, and then you later on figure out, well, the date of loss was in not in 21 but in 2020, that number will remain as it is. And it's also important not to rely on this number in your reports, because for various reasons it could be that this number is also used by another country. Therefore, it is not, let's say, a valid indicator of your claims if you just rely on your claim reference number. Good. While we are here already in this area, what you see up here is in that line, first, this button personal and office. What is the difference between these two? Personal shows the claims or preliminaries you have registered by yourself. Office shows the ones that have been registered and within the office you are allocated to. So every user is allocated to at least an office. Some of you are to a country or to more than one country. And this is, of course, then it still remains with office. That means even if you have country access rights, in that case it would show you all claims of the country. Whereby, as under personal, only the ones you have registered by yourself. Search button will guide you also to the search claim again. Refresh is clear. Then you would refresh your layout here. Then you have here these buttons where you can actually limit what is displayed here. So if I would take away close, it will show only open ones. Same here. If you want to limit it to preliminaries or claims, it would then just show either preliminaries or claims. This one here, this one is ticked on by default, but there are users who are working on specific business partner, so-called strategic partners. Then you could limit or add the overview to this particular customers. So I already mentioned here open, close, preliminary claim, and that is actually what you can see on these symbols here. So if I'm now here in this line, you see the first symbol here is an O, which stands for open. Here you would have another one example which is closed. There are also deleted ones, but they are not shown here on the overview screen. Deleted, by the way, is a possibility for preliminaries only. So preliminaries can be deleted, but claims can never be deleted. So going further in these symbols here, so you see here like this white sheet, it is a symbol for a preliminary, whereby the symbol with these lines in it, it's for a claim. And you can see this also when I go with the mouse over it. The black one is a recovery claim. So this is a claim connected to the so-called customer claim. Good. The numbers I already talked about. Processing status is actually the status of the claim. The claim is currently in. STT number, I already mentioned that, is the specific Schenker track and trace number for this specific transport. Since you also could register logistics claims, of course, this can never be a mandatory field to enter. These three, I would say, are self-explanatory. Yeah, what that is, yeah, consignor, consignee, claimant, I would say quite obvious. Claimed amount is also clear what that is. And here you will see the different kind of damages you could have. So then we still, what is also on here are these different colors. What does this mean? This blue one is a symbol for, or a marker for a business partner. So every business partner, which is in the end coming from SAP, has a blue symbol. And you will also find this color concept when we go into the individual screen, where you could see that as well. Yeah. The one above where I'm right now is this white symbol, yeah, and this is a party that came from a transport search. In that case, a transport party, yeah, they are in white. Then going to these colors on the right side, on the left side here, the orange or the red one, this is showing that a certain task is either due or overdue. This settings can be done in the legal entity settings by your FDU, who can decide, okay, at a certain point in time, something is missing. Let's say the reminder date is due or overdue. Then this can be set to show, okay, after a certain period of time, it should be marked. Yeah. Good. The very same you will find further down on your screen, where you will find the tasks. Here again, you will find personal and office. Personal or office. Yeah. And also, like here, all in red, so they're all overdue. And very same, you will find the claim reference number, you will find consignor, claimed amount, kind of damage, like above. And as you can see, here is a due date. Yeah, so then when this was already should have been worked on. Now, on top here, you can see these three, which also show the ones which are either due, and the one is for the office or the branch, and the other ones are for the individual users. Yeah, same as for the overdue. And here, this is an additional one which shows which are marked. What does this mean now with these marked? So whenever a task or whatever is generated, you could mark that task, yeah, and then it would turn into red. So for example, if there are specific tasks, you say, okay, I need to follow up on that at a later point in time, then you can mark them and you can see, now it's there and I have to work on it. Well, being in here, so this is one type of a task, and then of course you can see what you can do there, or yeah, what actions can be done, and they could link, it's linked directly into the specific claim. Yeah. So to make it complete, down here is always the version which is now available. So this is yeah, always changed. So that means whenever any changes are done, and we do we see too that we have updates on the application on a regular basis, almost every week. Yeah, so every new version gets this number here. So this is the current version on FAT. And if you would look now into production, you would see this actually it's 35. Yeah. Good. That's so far on the overview screen. Now going into or looking into a whatever random claim, and to see too what fields do we have there. I will just take an preliminary and open it. So as said, the upper bar always remains, but the lower part changes. Here again, you can see that symbol. In this case, it's a preliminary, the status is open, and you see the claim reference number. And in this case, also the transport, the SCT number, and just to make it easier to say, okay, from where to where it was. Before going to this screen, I will just go again into this transport screen, because here you see exactly the information that has been shown already in the transport search. So it takes it over as it was shown there. Yeah, and of course helpful because it already fills in certain fields. Now the question is, what fields needs to be filled in? Good. So every mandatory field is marked with a red star. Yeah. If you do not fill in these mandatory fields, you cannot save it. So, and like I showed it in the search with the transports, yeah, you could also in here you say, okay, order date was say, minus whatever weeks, you know, and then the system directly enters that date. Yeah. And again, as I said, if it's in green, it says this field has been changed, but it's not saved yet. Good. Processing status I mentioned already in the overview screen. Yeah, and here are the different statuses you could have on a claim. Very important in that regard is if you receive a claim, like in this example, it's a claim coming from eClaims, there are certain stages or processing statuses which are not shown to the customer. In that case, it would show this to you. Let me just figure out one, which, for example, it's not this one, but let me see. It's a test environment. It's not. Yeah, but it's something I cannot show you here on the test environment because it's not complete in here. But there are statuses which are not displayed to the customer. In that case, the processing status which is shown to the customer would be displayed below here. Good. Yeah, I talked about these date fields and how they can be customized. There are a lot of other date fields you could use. Yeah, and once you use them, of course, then they are also displayed in here. Going further down here, the loss information that is shown actually, like it says, the place of damage. Yeah, and if you go with the mouse over it for the majority of the fields, it also gives you an explanation on what actually is expected there. Yeah. Damage rate is, I think, self-explanatory. One important thing here in this regard, depending on what kind of damage you choose, in this case, you see this delay, it also changes the reason for damage. So if you, for example, would choose not delay, but let's say partial loss, it would change the list of what can be picked from here. Yeah, I think loss is clear what that is coming from eClaims. Yeah, delivery status is also, I would say, self-explanatory. Also, that question here is self-explanatory. What you can see already now, you see I've changed some fields, which also has an impact on that bar here. That means as long as it is not saved, certain fields are blanked out or grayed out, and you cannot use them. If you, for example, have made changes here and said, okay, I do not want them, then simply press discard. Then you get a question, and then it goes back into the status you had it before, and then you can see these buttons are now available again. Going further down here, of course, you have here a list of goods codes. In this case, it is not a mandatory field, but it has been filled in. And now, of course, it is going through all these lists is a little bit difficult to find. And if you say, okay, I know it was whatever, chemicals, yeah, and you can see the search result is always directly, it's limiting, it's, yeah, the more letters you click, the more the result is limited. And you can see it's not only looking at the first letters, but also on the letters which are somewhere within a word. Yeah. Good. I would say these fields are self-explanatory. Package type as well. There's a limited number of package types you can enter. Yeah, I mean, you all for this part, I would say it's not of that relevance. You can enter the Incoterms that have been agreed between the shipper and the consignor. Sorry, the consignor and consignee. Freight term is what you have agreed upon with the customer. Then, of course, transport mode. There are different ones you can pick from. Different here, of course, this is transport type, which is used within a country or can be used in a country. Same goes for product. So there are certain products that can be used. I would say this is, in this case, it's I'm in here as a German user, therefore I would see SPV. In other countries, you do not see that. Litigation, if you use this, then it opens an additional field here, and you can enter litigation reference and the place of litigation. The fields down here is quite interesting. So everything what you plug in here, will remain on the claim after saving. Let's put it like this. Everything what you enter in this one here will also be saved, but will disappear from the screen. So now the question, where is it? Actually, it is in here. I will go into that in a second when I go through these fields up here. Please keep it in mind. So then talking about this column here and the parties. I mentioned it on the overview screen. Everything what is a business partner and information we receive from SAP is blue. This is a blue symbol. Everything which is a Schenker office has a green symbol. So this goes through all. And here you can see the white ones are the ones which have been received from a transport search. And also here, just not to make it too full the screen, you have the additional ones you can add. And this one is a little bit specific in here, where you can see here it's carrier 1. If I would pick this one now and would, let's say, take this one, for example, and you would see then here it says carrier 2. So you can have up to 4 different carriers entered on a specific transport. Good. Further in here, what you see here is the display currency of that particular claim. This is the default currency coming from either from your legal entity settings, or if you have chosen another one, then it would show your individual currency. Policy is the insurance policy. In that regard, it's important to know that the policy, a policy has always a period of 1 year, not necessarily the calendar year, but it's 1 year maximum. And this, of course, is linked to the loss date. So if I would change now the loss date to another year, then a different policy would show up. If I would have chosen a policy, then it would give me an alert, say, okay, you have also to set the policy correct. These are simple entry fields where you can enter freight charges, value of the goods, insurance premium, if you know that. liability regime. So of course, you have different ones in different countries, which you can set here. Maximum liability. In this case, an amount has been entered, and you have this button up here where you can calculate the maximum liability actually. First, you have a date here, and then of course this date is in connection to the exchange rate. And by default, it's 833. But of course, if you have air ocean and you would need whatever 21 SDRs or whatever you have, then you can change that. You enter a weight. If it has not been entered here under damage rate, if you have a weight in here, it would show in here directly. If we would do this now, enter a weight in here, and after saving, of course, then the system would also display the weight in here. Claimed amount is the amount the customer is claiming for. You might not have that under preliminary, therefore it's not a mandatory field under preliminary. I would say that is clear what that means if the customer wants to freight charges back or the VAT. And here you can enter amounts of other parties that want to have money from us, which are not the claimant directly. This field, initial provision, is active under a preliminary only if you have entered the claimant. If there would be no claimant, which is, as you can see, not a mandatory field under a preliminary, this field is not active. Here you can enter an amount where what you think of you could recover from either from the insurance company or from another third party. Why do we have that? Well, you always have to see that on the one side you have a business case where a customer wants money from you. That is concrete. And on the other side you have potentially a party you could get money from, but that is not very concrete. You do not really know whether you can get that money back from a subcontractor. Therefore, you should never, ever mix the amount you have to pay for, the claimed amount, with a potential recovery amount. So, meaning, for example, if you would say my liability or the claimed amount from the customer is 548, and I would expect let's say, to receive back 500 from a subcontractor, then you would enter 48 in here. That would be wrong. So never mix up these two different business cases. So going further down here, settlement code. Here you can enter or have to enter at a certain stage of that of a claim what is actually the result of that particular claim, and this is relevant when you close it, or it's mandatory when you close it, either a preliminary or a claim. Then you have to enter the result in here of that. So either it's fully settled, partly settled, goodwill payment, partly set. I mentioned that, or it's refused. You can question why are there so many different ones? Well, this of course is relevant then for reporting purposes. If you say, okay, it's one of these ones here, and you make a report out of that, then it helps the persons in your organization to figure out why has things been done, and to make concrete measures. Good. I think that's it on the overview screen. Now, if we go a little step back and say, okay, how does it look like now if I want to register a new one? And as said, you enter a claim reference number, and you said, okay, you already looked into it, and it's the right one. Now I want to create a preliminary out of that. So the system retrieves the shipment data. It fills in all the data already which you have, and what you see up here is a symbol, showing which fields still need to be filled in. So if I go through this, okay, I say, okay, it's file opened, I enter a loss date, and what we just learned, I said, okay, the loss date was yesterday. So I put in here -1. And when did I receive this claim? Well, I received it today. I put in a 0. And once I lose focus of that and go to the next page, then it enters the date. Then place of damage, let's say it was a subcontracted carrier. And what was it? It was an obvious damage. Something was breakage, for example. You see, the more I enter, this goes down, because if I would now save it, it will give me an alert, say, okay, not everything has been filled in. And it also highlights in red the ones which have not been filled in. So in that case, I go in here and it makes a proposal saying, okay, this takes it directly from the managing office. And I say, in this case, I make it easy and say managing office. So you see, everything is in there. And now I can save it. So you see it's saved and it generates a reference number. So whenever I figure out now, for whatever reason, I would say, and this is what I mentioned before, I would say it was not in 2021, but it was in 2020. And I would save that. See, it does not change that reference number. That will always remain. Okay, so now maybe a few words about these responsible office and managing office. So what is this about? Managing office is always the office currently working on that particular claim, whereby responsible office is the office that has caused the damage, at least from at that point in time, from your view as claims adjuster and what you the information you have available. There is another one which is in here, claimed office. This is, I will put it in here like this as well, doesn't matter for now. This is actually the office that has received that particular claim. And you can imagine all three of them can be different. So if I'm now a person who has extended user rights on a country level, then of course I can change not for the managing office and say, okay, it was not Mannheim in that case, but it was, let's say, Munich. Say Munich Land, for example. That does not have an impact on the others. So I can save it. And then Munich is now the office I continue working on. So therefore, it's always important that you are sure for which office are you registering a claim. Or which are you working on? So now a few words on these fields here. Transport I mentioned already. Posting is an area I will not touch in this basic introduction right now. Because this is, let's say, takes a lot of time, and given that we already have, say, almost over, this is part of a separate section and not relevant for really beginners who just start registering claims. Documents is, of course, relevant. And in that case, what do we have here? We actually have two areas. Attachments, there you can upload documents. And if you do this, for example, sorry, you have documents available, and I would say this one here, it shows you down here, but you need to upload it in order to make it available. Then you have the document up here, and if you see, if I go with the mouse over the edge, there's also a little box, which opens these two boxes here. So you could delete a document, or you can make it available in the eClaims if that is already active in your country. What you can do as well, if you see, if I go with the mouse over this here, this symbol starts, or here as well, yeah, where you can say, okay, that was whatever, yeah, voice, yeah, yeah, you can save that by just entering it and then leave the focus. What you see here is the type of documents which are allowed by WebClaims. What is not possible to do right away is to drag a mail directly into here. That will not work because this is not an appropriate format, which is, let's say, not a standard format. If you want to do that, actually you have to do it in the way that you take that mail, drag it to your desktop, and from the desktop you can do it here, and by that way it will be converted into a PDF. This area down here is the connection to the so-called ODM, which stands for Output and Document Management. In case the transport system that has been used stores their documents in ODM, then you can find these documents in here. I cannot show this right now to you here because this is not the test environment does not have any documents in the test environment of ODM. But on production, especially for air and ocean, you will find then the CUA bill or BL and other transport-related documents which have been generated on the operational side and made available. Yeah. Good. Communication is the place where you can either send letters or emails to either customers or users. Now you can see already in here there is a user mentioned on the office, yeah, in that case, or if you would have with customers where you would find that name. Now the question is how to get that name in here at all to make it available. You know? So if you click on here, see that name would be shown directly and can be used. You know? So if I go with the mouse over it, you see that little, I think it's called hamburger symbol. Yeah, you can click on that, and then you would open a new screen which shows you, in this case, the details of that particular branch. Yeah? And under contacts, you can add persons, yeah, which then can be used for email services. Yeah? The very same, just going back in here, would also work if I would have, for example, a customer. Let's take this one here, this customer. Yeah? The very same works there as well. Yeah? You see similar layout, all the information we received from SAP, but here under contacts, you could add a particular customer. Yeah? Do not worry about these blue and black ones. Usually you will see this black one only. This is relevant, at least for the time being, for eClaims only. Yeah? But here, if you would click a new contact, you can enter a name, yeah, last name and email. And when you have done this, saved it, yeah, this person will be available in the communication. So going further a little bit here, yeah, you see there's a task. In that case, see it's a claim notification because I have changed something. Yeah, saying okay. It says that managing branch Munich, in that case, has said, Mannheim, you are responsible for that claim. Yeah? You might remember when we are here on that claim screen, initially it was Mannheim in all three places. Yeah? I changed Mannheim to Munich, and in that case, yeah, it was said, okay, Munich, in that case, informs Mannheim, you are now the responsible office. Yeah? Of course, if we would all three the same, this kind of task would not show up. Now, the last one in here is the audit log. And in the audit log, you can see what kind of information has been added, has been changed. Yeah. So it goes very much into the details, and it shows you everything what has been entered, by whom, at what time and date. Yeah. Also, if I would have changed anything, yeah, like I did with the office, yeah, you see here it shows you, yeah, that the managing office has been changed. Good. So now going back to this one, when I did it initially, I did not save it, but I want to show it again here. So if I enter something in here, update message, and I save it, yeah, that information is then made visible here in the audit log. So this is quite helpful in case you say, for example, you talk to a customer, you talk to someone else, and just want for your own record want to keep that information. Yeah, then you could go in here and say, okay, talk to XYZ. Yeah, and then you do not need to enter a date or whatever. You just say talk to whatever. Yeah. Save it. And then you would see here, yeah, it's me who entered that and said, okay, talk to XYZ. Yeah. Well, I would say that's quite helpful if you want to keep track on your activities on a particular claim. So the time is already over, and I also said, well, that this should also be some kind of question and answers, which have been received in till this week, Wednesday. In fact, I received only one question, and I want to just leave the initial or the introduction part here and go into that particular question which I received, and I will just display that question to you here. If you want to read it, so this is something very specific the user is asking for, and it's I would say half operative related, not so much on the system related. But anyway, I will just show you the difference of what this is about. Yeah. So if you, for example, if we would go into a claim with a posting, yeah, and you have this posting here. The question is which cost center should be used. Yeah? And if you see here, in that case, for this particular claim, in this case, it is the Vienna office, and it has the default cost center like this, in this case. And you can see up here, it says it's OL, which stands for own liability. If now, if I open that down here, you would see this shows all the cost centers which are available for this particular managing office. And depending on the user rights you have, you would also see in here internal recovery cost centers. So I could, of course, pick another one, say this one, and then you can see it changes it to internal recovery. So therefore, I would say it's more a matter of operational question, and the user the setup in or the operational setup in your country. If you do out of that particular office a direct recovery against another office, or if you say, okay, I first take it on my office, in my cost center, and afterwards I make a cost center correction to the other office. That could be one way. Or if you would say, depending on where you are, saying, okay, instead of Vienna, I would change the managing office here, directly to, let's say, whatever we have, let's say Graz. I would say it. I would take. We have here grads. Let's take this one here. Yeah. I could take this one here. I would save it. Yeah. Yeah. This. Now I would take it to grads, and then you would see that also in here, yeah, it keeps the old cost center, yeah, but then of course it would show up here the cost centers of grads, and then you would pick my own one or the one which is relevant for that case. So it would be the own ability. So this is, as I said, this is more an operational matter. This is not, there's no right or wrong into that. Yeah, it's the way on how you treat that in your organization. Yeah, and well, it's not part of this presentation here, but of course, well, if you are in a particular country, then you know your cost center, but there are ways to show this more easier to understand for users. Yeah, there are ways to do this. Okay, I think that's it for today. Thanks for your attention. I wish you all a nice weekend. I hope it was interesting enough for you. And as you see there, we just scratched the surface of the system, and there are a lot of other things to explain and to show, and this will be then part of later sessions. As said in the beginning, this session is recorded, and I will make it available to all of you at a later stage. So in case you have newcomers, then they can look into this video as well. Thanks again, and have a nice weekend.